Hi, I'm Stephen Majors with the Alliance for Regenerative Medicine. I'm here at ARM Studios with Kristin Yarema, the current president of cell therapy for Poseida Therapeutics. Kristin, thanks so much for joining us, and I understand that you were recently announced as becoming the new CEO of Poseida effective January 1st, so congratulations on that.
Thanks very much, Stephen.
Great having you here. So tell us a little bit about Poseida. What part of the CGT space are you all focused on, and kind of what are the exciting developments in the pipeline you're able to share?
Well, thanks, Stephen. So Poseida is a proud member of ARM, and we cover all aspects of cell and gene therapy. So at our core, we're really a proud platform technology company, and we have a very unique, homegrown and proprietary set of genetic engineering and other technology tools that enable us to work toward developing differentiated novel therapies, both in the allogeneic cell therapy space as well as in the gene therapy space. Our cell therapy programs are ahead. So we have a great partnership with Roche for hematological malignancies. We also have solid tumor programs, and we were pleased to recently announce a strategic investment by Astellas as well. Our gene therapy programs are all in preclinical stage.
And then is that for rare genetic diseases?
Yes.
Great. And in terms of your kind of personal story, how did you get involved in the cell and gene therapy space, and why are you working in this sector as opposed to doing something else?
You know, my personal experience goes way back decades, actually, to when I was a Ph.D. graduate student, I would say. And so I was working in a chemical engineering department in the very early days of cell culture, and you know, we dreamed about cells becoming living medicines and therapies, but at the time, nothing was really coming together. People were doing, you know, kind of crazy things like sending cells up into space, seeing if they would self-organize into tissues and therapeutics and things. So it was clear to me that it was going to take some time, really, for this to work. And so I went elsewhere in biopharma. I've been, you know, I'm now in my third decade somewhere in the biopharma industry. But I always, you know, felt that the day would come when cell therapy and gene therapy would become reality. And so, you know, I started touching cell therapy programs in particular at companies like Amgen, and then moved full-time into the cell and gene space back in, I guess it was 2020, first with an allogeneic cell therapy company called Atara Biotherapeutics, and then joined Poseida earlier this year. So it's just fantastic to see how, that dream that I had and that many other people had decades ago has really become reality. And, I think we're at a very exciting stage where we are going to continue to see more and more cell and gene therapies benefit the lives of patients and their families. And as I said, we focus a lot on allogeneic cell therapy in particular, and I'm very excited. I feel we're really approaching a tipping point for allogeneic cell therapy, and look forward to the day in the probably not too distant future when we'll see a number of allogeneic cell therapies alongside the autologous ones we currently have that have shown such impressive data and such great clinical benefit.
And how big of a game changer would allogeneic therapies be? And how far are we from success on solid tumors, which of course have been a thorny problem to solve?
Yeah, great questions. Let me start with the allogeneic part. I think allogeneic cell therapy is incredibly important and poised to have a massive impact. So, we know the data from autologous cell therapies, and it is brilliant and exciting to see that we're now putting up survival data, not just response data. But I've been struck by how we're seeing more and more publications, more and more testimonials from institutions and hospitals just talking about the problems that they have meeting the needs of patients today in getting them enough cell therapy, right? There are waiting lists, there are still problems with production, and of course, regardless, a patient has to wait for the time to develop the therapy and can't be treated, at the time that patient and that physician, have the conversation. I think cell therapy is the right choice for you. And all of these challenges, remember, we're facing those when our approved autologous cell therapies are approved for very late lines of disease. And we now know that cell therapy should be used in early lines of disease. So how do you scale that? How are you going to possibly meet the need, for patients when you're not just talking about, hundreds or a few thousand patients, but, we estimate there could be 20,000 patients a year in second-line multiple myeloma, maybe up to 15,000 patients for DLBCL, just in the US and 5 European countries. To us, the benefit of allogeneic cell therapy being off the shelf, being able to be manufactured at scale for a much lower cost. We think hundreds of doses from a single batch is very feasible. We are well on track to do that ourselves, and I'm sure others are too. That's going to enable us to meet the patient need and help every patient that deserves to have cell therapy, benefit from that treatment. That's our aspiration.
Great. And then on solid tumors, where do you think we are there?
So solid tumors are tougher, right? I think we've all come to appreciate that, but I do think that we will get there. We ourselves have a solid tumor program against the mucin 1C target, and we're looking at that at a range of solid tumors. I think what we're going to find is for solid tumors, we need to have cell therapies that have a lot of functionality, can do a lot of things. So they are going to have to not just, hit the target and a good valid target for those tumors, but they're going to have to find ways to survive and persist through the hostile tumor microenvironment. We might need the ability to redose patients or give cycles of dosing. Again, that's something that's quite difficult to do with an autologous therapy. And so that's where we're very optimistic about what we're doing at Poseida. I mentioned our genetic engineering toolkit. One very important piece of that is our the system that we use to transduce the genes, which is a transposon system. It's different from viral vector, which is what most people are using. And one of its great advantages is that it's got a very large cargo capacity. So in one single transfection step, we can put a lot of genes into the cell. So we can put in things like a safety switch that can be triggered, if needed. We can put in multiple CARs or CARs and TCRs, full-length CARs, so not a tandem construct or kind of a bispecific thing. We can put in potential armors to help immune system evasion. We can put in cytokine amplifying technologies. So, we do agree with the community out there that solid tumors are a challenge, but it's a challenge that we need to face, head on. And we're going to try to bring the best of all of our technologies to try to solve that problem.
That's great. And when you look back at your career so far in the cell and gene therapy sector, is there a particular experience or moment that was particularly meaningful for you?
Yeah, it's a great question. There are a lot, actually. I think one that stands out for me is, I was really just very, very proud to be part of the effort to really help drive the first allogeneic T-cell immunotherapy toward approval. That's a product called Ebvallo. It is now on the market in Europe, so patients are receiving it. And this is for a really terrible disease. So it's for something called PTLD, post-transplant lymphoproliferative disorder. This is a rare cancer that patients can get after a stem cell or a solid organ transplant. So can you even imagine? So a patient has had, some number of experiences, problems with their health that led to them needing to get a transplant. in the first place. They think that their patient journey is near its end, right, with a successful transplant. And then on the back heels of that, then they develop this lymphoma. So this therapy is the first of its kind, the first approved therapy for that indication, again, in Europe. And really provides these patients with an option for treatment and control of their disease, maybe potentially long-term treatment or a cure. I don't want to make any promises about that. The data over time will declare itself. But the alternative is that these patients tend to pass away in anywhere from a few weeks to a few months. So, to me, I think it was a great team effort. It showed me what allogeneic cell therapy can really do, even with that first early product. And it just really inspired me to, do what I can to join companies like Poseida, where we have many programs and many efforts that are going to try to bring the promise of allogeneic cell therapy and gene therapy to many, many more patients.
Great. Well, thanks for sharing that story, Kristin. Thanks for being on ARM Studios, and I should have mentioned that you're also a member of the ARM Board of Directors, so thank you for your service on that as well.
Thank you, Stephen. It's my pleasure.